In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut a funnel corset. So if this is something you like, please kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up and leave your comment at the comment section. So now here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist and top length. So after marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2, come down by 1 inch, and from there I'll place my ruler and draw out. The next step is to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So now I'm going to go ahead to mark that, and on that point I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line. So after marking this, I'll go ahead to mark back what I have on the shoulder on my chest line, place my ruler, and I will draw out a straight line. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to divide what I have here into 2 by folding my tape, and I will mark. Now I'm going to go ahead to come out by ½ inch. Now at the chest line, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll connect from this point to that ½ inch, and I'll place my ruler and take this all the way up. After I'm done marking this, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple line, because I want to mark my dart. Now my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5, which I marked all the way from the upper part to the lower part of my pattern. So after marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my dart intake. So for my dart intake, I'm using 1.5 inches. So if you're a bit busty or you're on the bigger size, please go ahead to use 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be making use of a straight dart for this pattern because I want it to be simple. And if you notice on the main pattern, there's no much dart intake. So I'll just go ahead to draw out a straight dart so that you easily join it. Now from your bust, come down at least by 1 inch and connect, and also connect on the other side. Now after connecting, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this. Now the next step you're going to take is to go ahead and mark your basic neckline. So my neckline is 3 inches, so I'll be dividing what I have left. I want to use this as a guide for the pattern. Now I'm going to place and I will connect. So after I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to mark about 2 inches all the way up, and after I'm done marking that is where I want my funnel corset to stop. So you can go ahead to measure or ask your client where you want it to stop, or if you're making it for yourself, you have to check where you want it to stop, or you can use at least 2 inches after your chest line. So what I will do now is to mark my dart at that point. So I'm going to be using 1 inch on both sides. So now if you're busty, you can use 1 inch here and 2 inches on the other side, or you can use 1.5 inches on both sides, or if you're a bigger person, you can do that. So now I'll go ahead to insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll measure this dart intake and replace and add my sewing allowance. So if you're using much sewing allowance for your pattern, you can go ahead to take this dart on top, but if not, take the dart on your chest line. That is if you don't want to add much sewing allowance, you just want to add ½ inch. So just go ahead to replace the exact dart that is on your chest line and add your sewing allowance. So you can use any sewing allowance of your choice if you want to add an allowance to your pattern. So now I'll go ahead to mark my under bust measurement divided by 4, replace the dart intake and add my sewing allowance. Here for my waistline, I want to take out 2 inches from my waistline. My waistline is 28 minus 2, I have 26. So that 26, I'm going to divide it by 4 inches. And I'll go ahead to measure 2 inches dart intake that I took out, and I'll go ahead to replace it and add my sewing allowance. So you can use your sewing allowance of your choice. So here I'm going to go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure 2 inches for my dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. So after this, I'll go ahead to connect from my bust to my under bust, and I'll connect to my waist, and from that point I'll go ahead to connect all the way going down to the lower part of my pattern this way. So after I'm done connecting this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this. So after I'm done marking this, right, the next step I'm going to take is just to go ahead to come up by 2 inches here, and I will be blending this to the front part of my pattern. So after I'm done marking this, the next step I'll take is to go ahead to draw out my neckline. I'll be coming down by ½ inch or 1 inch here because the neckline is not so deep, and I'll connect from here to here. So this pattern is a requested tutorial, and the picture on the thumbnail is not exactly this, but I'll be putting it at the end of the video or towards the end. So now I'll mark my bust dart. To get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while at the back is 15.5. So if I minus 15.5 from 17, it will give me 1.5. So I'll come down by ½ inch a bit at the front, and I'll be extending this all the way up. So this is the original pattern I have, so I'm just working according to it. Now I'll just go ahead to take it back to the armhole area. Now I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this, and this is what I have on this pattern. So after this, I'll just label my pattern and I'll be cutting this out. So to cut this out, what I'll do is to go ahead to replace another pattern underneath it, so that I will not cut out I'll cut out the funnel part and the under bust underneath it, under bust bustier underneath it. So what I will do is to go ahead to place another pattern paper underneath it this way, and make sure that it comes down at least 1 inch or 1.5 inches under your under bust, so that when you're placing it, it's going to relax. Now I'll be tracing out the shape. So when you're tracing this out, please be careful to avoid cutting the part that is not needed on your pattern. So I'll just go ahead to cut this out, because when I was even cutting it, I was a bit confused. So I'll just go ahead to cut out the other side of my pattern this way, and next I'll just trace this off. So this is what I have on my pattern. So one will be the bustier underneath, while the other one will be the funnel corset on top. So while cutting out, I forgot to cut out this pointy edge at the under bust part of the bustier, so go ahead to cut that out. So here for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements, which includes the shoulder to bust, under bust, and waist. So sorry, I didn't know that the lightning when I was cutting this was too much, so the video was not showing very well, the pencil mark. So after this, I went ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So for the back pattern, your shoulder to waist you should also go ahead to measure it, because my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. After that, I went ahead to add my blouse length. So after marking your dart, what you're going to do is to go ahead to mark ½ inch on both sides. Now you're going to be drawing out your dart. I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, extend this all the way up, and extend at the other side. After I'm done marking this, I'll also repeat this at the other side of my pattern, and I'll go ahead to mark. Now I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Here I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4. That is the waist measurement you used for the front, because we snatched our waistline. That is what I'll be using here, and I'll mark. Here I'll go ahead to add my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll go ahead to connect. So I'm sorry for the background noise, that should be my neighbors. So now I'll go ahead to come up by 2 inches here, and I'll go ahead to connect just like we did for the front. So I'm sorry this part of the video is not showing very well. So I came down by ½ inch here, and I'll connect. So when I was setting up the lights, I didn't know it was too much for this part, so that is why this part of the video is not showing very well. So for the lacing area, I came in by 2 inches, and after that I'll go ahead to cut this out. And after cutting it out, this is what the back pattern looks like. Very easy. And I'll just cut out the lacing area and cut out the darts at the center of my pattern. So with this, we have come to the end of today's video.